city or a town, of frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts, the underground sound in a city or a town, of frown. The business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts. The underground sound is the voice within, to give ear to the spirit and to flee from sin, to live for Jesus and the praise of him, by not selling out for the praise of men, to do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost, to keep pushing up the weight, carrying the cross, straight bench pressing sin, defend the word that lacks, and your best mention him, or then you're gon' die. Cause the underground sound ain't a city or a town, the business of a crown, of the living that abounds, of the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts, the underground sound ain't a city or a town, the frown.
Oh, hey, Dan Bell here. As many of you guys know, I'm a world's strongest powerlifter. I actually just finished up reading this book from Scott Davenport's Mixed Martial Arts. I love how he gets in the mindset grit required to become successful. Scott tells a story of how it was installed in him in his early years. He then takes you through his rise through fighting, the camps, the coaches, his influences, and his opponents. He also dives into the hardships, the challenges, and injuries, everything that he needed to overcome them. Scott's virtues and faith carried him through these hardships and challenges to find your own. That mindset and that lessons that Scott learned and expressed in this book can be transferred to almost any endeavor. If you're interested in this story and how hard work, perseverance, faith can carry a person to their goals, this book is definitely for you.
All right, Pete Rubish and I are live with the man who's out of prison, Chris Maniac Hickson. How's it going,
Thank you
man?
for having me on, guys.
Yes, sir. Yeah, nobody's interviewed you, so it's like, we got to do this, man. Scott came up to me like 4 weeks ago about doing these interviews, and we've done 3 of them so far. And we had to have you on because, like, no one's talked to you, and I can't believe it because, you know, you were one of the guys who ushered in the current era of powerlifting. Like, you and Eric and Ernie and you know, even myself, like, what, 10 years ago, we were kind of putting powerlifting on the map in a sense with the videos and everything. And you know, you hit that 800 hook grip at 18, and everybody was like freaking out about that. That was the lift that I feel like put you on the map, and everybody, I mean, that blew up. So it's I feel like somebody needed to talk to you. Reach out.
I feel like you have like a bunch of great powerlifters as your guests, and then you have me.
No, dude. No, seriously, honestly, you were like the most requested person to have interviewed. I kid you not. Yeah, so because nobody's heard from you, and everybody wants to hear everything and hear what's going on. And like I said, you were one of the original people. You were one of the OGs of powerlifting, if you really think about it. Like, powerlifting's huge now, and there's a million people stronger than me even, and it's like, but you were one of the people who ushered in everything, you know? So, I mean, what have you been up to?
Well, you know, well, give me a time frame. You know, the past week, the past month. Would you say the past, 2 years?
Past 2 years, dude.
Oh, past 2 years. Well, you know, I got over my, there was a total of 25 months total spent in, federal prison. My sentence was 24 months, but, I did, get into trouble while in prison as well. If you're going to get trouble when you're not in prison, you're probably going to get trouble when you're in prison too. So I ended up doing 25 months of a 24-month sentence. Obviously while you're in there, it seems like it takes forever and it's never going to end. But, once it's over, it happens so fast in the blink of an eye sort of deal. So, now I'm sort of just transitioning into, normal life and, getting rid of all my institutionalized habits, just finding really, finding work for one, obviously that's going to be a big thing. Obviously you actually have to have a full-time job when you're on probation. It's sort of dated by contract supervised release. So that's one of the things I've been looking into, obviously, is finding real work. They don't want me actually drug dealing. That was my first choice, but I guess I'm not doing that for a while.
So you got to explain, like, tell the people what happened here. Like, how'd you get sent to prison?
Okay, so rewind a little bit. You know, obviously, I saw an opportunity with some of the notoriety I was getting from my videos and stuff like that. And, you know, obviously, something that helps me get to the point where I was and gets, you know, any future success is, you know, part of it's going to be obviously taking the right hormones. You know, let's just be honest, you know, let's not beat around the bush. So I saw, okay, I get a million questions, not a million, I'm exaggerating. I get a couple questions, up to maybe 20 at the most in a day, back in the day, about, you know, what are you sort of using to get stronger? Now, obviously, I was pretty honest with people. I'm like, you know, no, I'm not natural. I haven't been natural, you know, but that doesn't mean I'm taking an extreme amount of anything that's making my liver or health bad. You know, of course, at that point in time, you know, maybe I was taking like testosterone or something of that nature. And I would just explain to them, you know, obviously you can spend, you know, your $100, $200 at GNC and waste your money, or you can spend maybe $50 to $100. And for the next 8 to 10 weeks, you can, you know, have slow, consistent gains and improve your lifts, you know, and actually be very healthy. So which one makes more sense? Then that sort of escalated to the point where, like, okay, I'm already getting these people that are wondering what to take. They're asking for where to get it. You know, I'm not that retarded. I can actually figure out how to make this stuff. Why not, you know, go into business, make it all, and just sell it myself? You know, it seemed like a natural business opportunity.
Went into business. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Oh no. So why not, you know, start selling it? You know, obviously improve the quality of my life. I didn't have to work a full-time job. You know, it became my full-time job, you know, in the sense that, you know, it took over everything I did. I had so many orders to fill. But, you know, it's obviously there's an appeal when you're making a lot of money. You know, I'll just be honest with you. You know, when you're bringing in, you know, I'm not going to, you know, give you an exact number, but when you're bringing in a number that makes your lifestyle very comfortable, obviously you like to keep doing it. I actually thought, you know, steroids were something that weren't necessarily, you know, I don't know, the law on it, I thought was sort of not very, I knew they were against the law. I didn't know they actually would come and knock down and break down doors, you know, in order to get people's, you know, sort of supply, you know, so that was a shock to me. So I think it was November of 2014, I was actually raided by Homeland Security. So around, let me think for a second. Just gotta check my notes. Oh yeah, there it was.
Hey, what was that like getting raided by Homeland Security? Like, what was that experience like?
So it's like a 4:30 on a Monday. I'm in my living room just getting orders ready, you know, box them up for USPS. And I hear something outside. I didn't know they were yelling out police. I try running out the back door. Naturally, that's what anyone would do, I think. They break the front door, you know, and the front door is a fairly significant size. It's like, you know, a 3-inch wood door, you know, of oak. And all of a sudden, you know, I noticed my whole neighborhood has, you know, 20 to 30 black SUVs. So that was sort of a shocking experience. And, you know, it was a little bit, you know, I was a little freaked out, to be honest with you. You know, that's not necessarily something that I'd ever expect to happen. So they held me outside. They don't even put me in handcuffs. They sit me on the couch. They sort of go through the house. One of the more, you know, comical experiences of the whole thing was watching, you know, 6 DEA or Homeland Security agents trying to carry down a pill press, you know, and they were having a lot of trouble just carrying the pill press out. You know, me and Montrell and one of my friends that plays basketball carried it up, you know, and there's 6 federal agents. They can't get this pill press out of the machine. So that was kind of funny, you know, in a way. But as it turned out, you know, they're like, okay, well, what were you doing? I actually was completely honest with them. I'm just like, I have a business. I sell a lot of steroids. I don't think there's anything wrong with it. And they're like, all right, well, you know, we'll be in contact. So fast forward 2 months, there's a court appearance. Fast forward another 2 months, there's another court appearance. Fast forward another 2 months, I'm like federally indicted, I believe it's called. And that just means that they're formally going forth with, you know, the charges of manufacturing and distribution of a controlled substance, as well as money laundering. I guess they like took every, you know, sort of Western Union that I ever did or ever sent to China, as well as some of, you know, the people I had send them, and added them up and figured, you know, they considered it money laundering for some reason. You know, not in the classical sense, what we think of when we think of money laundering. But another maybe year, 2, 3 years go by, and I'm finally sentenced. And on January or December of 2000, I believe it was 17, They sentenced me actually to 24 months in prison and then 3 years on supervised release. And how supervised release works is you have to meet certain expectations, but obviously you're not incarcerated. But if you do violate, you do run the risk of actually getting sent back to prison. So I'm currently on, the first month or two of probation, and I have up to like 1 to 3 years. You can get off a little bit early if your behavior is, up to their expectations. But from that is sort of what I've been dealing with ever since. I can take, a short break. Did you have any like things that I sort of, were curious about, or anything that I sort of missed in there that didn't make sense?
Wait, so you're telling me like they knocked down your door, they kicked down your door. There's probably what? How many federal agents?
There's at least 30.
Okay, 30 federal agents. They kick down your door. They talk to you, and they pretty much go on their way after that.
They go on my way and leave me their business card. If you get any more shipments, you just make sure you don't keep them.
Holy crap, man, that's ridiculous. You think they'd like do something then and there, but nothing came of it until a few months later, huh?
And then the next few months, it was just a very slow process. So really, I'm dealing with this thing for years before actually getting sentenced. And, the thing was, they did catch me with thousands and thousands of vials and, cash and, 35 kilograms plus of powder, raw materials to make, different things. So there was no way for me to say, oh, it was just for personal use. No one's going to use 35 kilograms of steroids in a year, or, so.
Have you heard about Ryan Kennelly? He got popped for the same thing.
I've heard something about maybe that he had like gold coins in a safe. Is that correct?
Well, Ryan Kennelly got popped for dealing recreational drugs, steroids, and like a bunch of guns. But it's similar because he was like the best bencher of all time at that point, and I don't even think of him. But it's fascinating how that works. So
what what he ended up getting from his particular
I wish I knew. I don't. You'd have to look it up, but it just made me think of that because I know there's a few people, and like you said, like actually, I think in like Canada, steroids are legal. There's some rule. It's like you can't have them shipped to you, but they're legal to possess. It's like the dumbest thing. Like I don't know how that works, but they can't bust you for possession. I don't know if there's a certain amount too, but I know that's the case in Canada, and I think a few other places. Like the UK is the same way.
I got a buddy in law enforcement, and he told me that they don't really bust people for possession of steroids and stuff in the States even. I don't know if that's really true, but he said mostly it's like if you're selling it, whatever.
I can just interject because they do at certain times, like certain times they get a thing about it. And like, remember when they raided Iron Addicts Gym in Miami? They raided Iron Addicts Gym a few years ago. C.T. Fletcher's gym or something, or he was related to it somehow. I don't want to like throw his name as that's his gym, but they shut that whole place down, and that was like the top powerlifting gym in Miami. And then you'll go the last few years, you haven't heard anything about anybody getting busted. Now, I do know that like if you're dealing a lot, they start to look into you, or if you're like a big time dealer. But like possession, personal possession, they don't care at all because that'd be like busting people for pot. Like you could never bust everyone in the world.
Well, the thing that's kind of funny about it is, when I was selling it in the past, I would say I had a lot more law enforcement customers than I had convicted felons buying from me. So if that tells you anything.
Yeah.
That is interesting.
I must have had over 10 at least, plus the people that, sometimes the police would have like one of their friends buy it from me because they don't want to be seen directly buying it or whatever. But, I know who the end person was that was getting it. And it's just kind of almost hypocritical in a way, that I'm, punished by the law when, many of the people that are enforcing the law are, actively using it, just the same as many other people.
Ronnie Coleman, right? Ronnie Coleman just.
So like, all right.
Obviously, he comes to mind, right?
It took you 2-3 years before you had to go to prison.
You have 2 to 3 years on what they would call a pre-trial. So you're you're supervised in a way. You're not allowed to leave the country, and you have to do any random drug tests that they ask for you to do. And they sort of every 6 months, every year, you might have another court appointment. And how it works is the lawyer will go back and forth with the federal prosecutor, and they'll try to work it out, on an agreement of what should actually be charged. Because I actually did start out with, they were trying to charge with 5 different felonies, and between the talks that happened, it got reduced to 2. But, in the grand scheme of things, I had a perfectly clean record. So, do I think it was a little excessive to sentence me to 2 years? Probably. But, could it have been worse? Absolutely. There's other people that are manufacturing and distributing controlled substances that get 10 to 30 years,
So was it like a minimum security facility?
I was at 2 different levels. I was at a low. It goes at the very highest. It starts out at USP. That would be a max security. Then there's a medium. Then there's a low, and then under a low, it's what they call a camp. That you hear some of like the more famous politicians probably go to a federal prison camp. I started out as a low. My behavior was good, so I got the opportunity to go to a camp. My first week at the camp, I had a cell phone.
Hold up. Is it?
What's that?
I think Pink said, "Hold up."
I think he might be freezing up a little bit. Was it hard for you, like, because you couldn't take stuff anymore, right? So you're just kind of forced to get off. Was that pretty rough to go through?
I would say, to be completely transparent with you, at that point I was actually more disappointed because I was on a mix of pharmaceutical drugs prescribed by my doctor that they've told me that I was actually going to be getting while in prison. And, these, certain cocktail of drugs actually, allows me to be able to do, ADHD drugs and other, mild opiates allow you to feel pretty good when you're doing nothing at all, and I was sort of, planned to take this, sort of cocktail of legally prescribed drugs in prison. And then when I got there, it was sort of a shock to hear, what I've been led up to believe, all along the pretrial, as I actually didn't get those drugs prescribed. So I actually went through a fairly decent withdrawal from those, and, which, lasted about a month, and I just slept about 20 hours a day.
Wow. Wait, all right. So I missed the last part. It like froze up on me. Did anybody else freeze up?
No, but we were able to see you. You're just kind of freezing a little bit.
Yeah, we just thought it was 420, so you were smoking or something.
No, I haven't done that in a million years, dude.
Oh, okay. Same.
All right. I'm back. It's blurry. I don't know what the heck. I'm always doing this at a different location, which is why it's weird. Okay, so I don't know if you already went over this part, but what was prison like? Like, what was it like on a daily basis? You said you slept 20 hours a day.
Yeah, for the first month, just to get my body, back into, whatever homeostasis or whatever you want to call it, to a place where I had energy, and felt decent. I was actually also dealing with, that knee injury. About 40 months ago, I actually detached all 4 quadricep tendons, so that was still healing when I got there. But as time went on, obviously I got my energy back, and I started to participate in some things, at the prison. What was it like? I mean, it's sort of, for starters, of course, no matter what security level you're at, whether it's dangerous or not, it's going to be like extremely boring. I read a lot of books. I'm not normally a reader, but, I sort of developed a habit of reading books. A lot of times, you find sort of, people to sort of, socialize with, obviously, that was a little bit difficult. I wouldn't say, I had the most people to relate with, in prison. It's not like, I was part of the cartel or anything, but, it was cool to sort of hear some of the stories of, actual, real big time criminals, not just, someone who's made a few vials of, testosterone. So that was sort of cool in a sense, to sort of compare and contrast versus what like the movies portray. Obviously, there wasn't a whole lot of, shower action going on, at least not with me, like the movies like to portray, so. But as far as, like a daily schedule, I might have woke up about 7 or 8, sort of, read for a couple hours. I might go to the yard to walk a few laps. As the day goes on, I go back for lunch, have another like 2 or 3 hour nap, go back outside for softball in the evening. After softball's over, I might walk a few more laps and pretty much, go back to the unit and might socialize a little bit or go to sleep. I wouldn't say, I would say maybe the benefit to it would be like it's extremely low stress for people who aren't, overthinking it. and feeling like caged in. If you just sort of go with the flow, it is extremely low stress. It's not very demanding, to be a prisoner, but obviously you don't have your freedom, and it can be, mentally challenging, as you may want to get, myself, I'm goal orientated, obviously there's not many goals I can work on while I'm in prison besides just read and improve my knowledge.
You had like internet access in there, didn't you? Because I saw you were like posting on Instagram and stuff, right?
All right. That's sort of at the prison camp. My first week, I sort of got caught with a cell phone and sent to isolation for 5 months.
Oh, no.
Wait,
did you ever have to clobber anybody in there?
I didn't personally. I would say the closest.
Be crazy.
The closest thing to that, obviously people really didn't mess with me. In addition to being, a little bit larger in size, at 6'4", and always above 250 pounds. I'm just kind of nicer to people in general, so I didn't really have any issues. But there was one point in time where, for some reason, the unit I was in, which is a group of 60 to 120 people, were under the impression that, I was sneaking off in the middle of the night to pee in the trash can. So, someone thought they caught me peeing in the trash can one night, and, it almost was a big brawl, in the unit.
oh, man.
So that was the closest to actually having, a physical fight. But, I saw my fair share, and, they're usually, happen where, the guard, obviously there's guards there, so they have to sort of run in the bathroom, have it happen really quick before the guards come by. And a lot of the time the guards are very much, not people that could handle themselves in a fight anyway. So it's not like they're, stepping in to break stuff up. They're, if anything, they're on the radios, they're calling, whatever the code is for an emergency, and getting, 5 to 10 more, correctional officers to show up to help defuse it. For the most part, the correctional officers were out of shape people who just needed, a well-paying job, because obviously it pays, fairly decent.
That'd be a tough job, man, caging human beings. I can't imagine doing that. Get in your cage, you know what I mean? It's like, that's...
I would hate that.
So,
like, how's your time and all this whole ordeal? How has it changed you as a person? Like, what's different today? Is there anything you would have done differently? Would you have not done the whole thing in the first place? Are you like completely different now?
If anything, I just have a lot more patience. Obviously, being in situations where you have to wait for 12 hours for yourself in order to get your, you get a room to yourself, and you're in like a tank with 60 other people waiting to be given a room, for hours on end with you don't even get to sit down. That can teach you some patience and some self-discipline. In addition to that, I would say I also learned no matter, what you're feeling, it's sort of, it doesn't have to dictate, the outcome of how much effort you put forth. Because obviously, you're not on supplements, you're not able to take different drugs. So, you don't feel the same, and you might not have like the brightest outlook on life, but, just being able to tell yourself that later on you'll be able to figure stuff out, and then realizing that it's 100% true, that no matter how down you feel, it's never permanent. So I would say it's just like, I never can really experience, I would say, real depression, after that experience, because there's, I don't see myself ever, being in a worse situation than some of the, prisons. I think I was at like 6 or 7 total. And, some were like 24 hours where I was in a room by myself on a cot that wasn't, a half-inch thick, and it was pretty much concrete. And, once I was finished with the book, I didn't even get another book to read, for a couple days. So I'd have to read the same book over and over. It doesn't get too much worse than that.
Holy crap. Okay, I got to ask, like, what was the best book you read?
I would say, for myself, I like the ADHD Advantage, just because I found it to be, give myself some, open, I don't know the right word, but like, give a viewpoint of what I sort of deal with, in a different way, and maybe how it isn't, necessarily the worst thing to deal with. It could be an advantage.
So is there like a library there? You could pick whatever books you wanted, or?
Depending on the situation, sort of in like the prison camps and stuff like that, there's a library. A lot of the time the prisoners like those, Lee Grisham books, more of the novels, and I try to read more informational stuff, obviously, because I do want to learn. But, there is a selection. when you're in isolation, though, in certain places, you're given a book or two, every 3 days. So you sort of have to just make do what you're handed, if that makes sense.
And then were all the prisons in Illinois, or were they all over the place?
Most were outside of Illinois. I started in Michigan. Then I went up to Minnesota. On the way there, I stopped in Wisconsin. I stopped in Terre Haute, Indiana. I stopped in I believe it was OKC. Yeah, OKC is a transport center. So if you're going anywhere across the country, you actually stop. Yeah, Oklahoma City.
Bro, I was there like a month ago. Unreal.
And then Chicago was one of the last ones. So they're actually, I actually finished up here in Chicago, which was interesting, being on a 25-foot sort of building and being able to, play basketball on the roof. That was sort of cool.
Why so many places? Like, why do they keep transferring you? What's the point? What are they doing with that?
Well, if incident reports happen and your points, your security level points, they have a classification system that goes along with your security threat risk. If that has any change, then they sort of have to make the appropriate accommodations to where you're actually at. So, like, let's say someone has a very high points classification and they're at a low, that is actually a liability for all the other prisoners, so that the prison can be sued for having them mixed in with all the low security prisoners,
So you're pretty much with people who are not much of a danger.
No, I only met, maybe 4 or 5, convicted murderers. The biggest issue, though.
5, huh?
Only 4 or 5.
The biggest people, though, I did want to avoid was what we call them the chomos. I don't know if you ever heard that expression before.
Child molesters.
Yeah, absolutely. So at the lower prisons, they're sort of a safe haven for the chomos, because a lot of the people at the lower prisons do not want to end up in physical altercations. So you sort of have to deal with all these weirdos, and you can tell a lot of them, clearly there's something wrong with them, and something's not clicking right in their brain. And you hear their stories, and it's just absolutely disgusting.
Wow. Okay. What was your favorite of the prisons you were at? Like, which one was the best one?
Probably where I started in Michigan, just due to the fact that, I coached a softball team. I got to, walk laps every day, and I got to play basketball, which, sort of was, when you don't have much else to look forward to, those things can be pretty fun,
Man, I feel like we keep going these questions. Like, what's the thing you look forward to most now that you're out of prison? Like, what was the best thing of, like, being back out in everyday life?
Oh, I just, I can't wait to get in shape, get strong, and, be able to, get my, get into really good shape, be out in the world, and just sort of, do what I want to do at any given time. In prison, you're not really able to have healthy foods. So, since I've been home, I've been, eating a relatively high protein diet, but really a lot of vegetables, just because of the fact that I haven't had any vegetables, really in 2 years.
How old are you, Chris?
Well, I just turned 28.
Wow, man.
How about yourself?
I'm 35, but it's just crazy because that means you were only, 26 or whatever when you got arrested?
22.
You were 22?
Yeah, 2014.
Oh, it took years, you said. Wow, yeah. Man. You're so young.
Right. And, obviously, looking back, I could say, I shouldn't have done it. But, I actually think it was a good learning experience. And I do think I could, easily run a business now, with very little training, because I had to learn as I go. No one gave me a manual on how to run a steroid business and said, here's what you do. Here's how you get more people.
That's a very positive outlook.
It's crazy because, like, 10 years ago, Chris was one of the most well-known people around, like, hands down. I mean, he was the strongest teen out there. Everybody knew it. Everybody watched his deadlifts because you were always known for your crazy explosive lifting. Like, no one could lift faster than you could, and you were the strongest teen. And everybody was like, holy crap, and you were doing hook grip and before anybody else was. And it's just, that's why everybody remembers you on YouTube and stuff. Everybody knows who you are, man. So, like, what's your favorite food outside of prison? Vegetables right now? Or, like, do you have a favorite food that you can eat now? Or
I wouldn't say I have a favorite food, but like obviously everything tastes good because you're used to like, shitty food that absolutely is terrible for you. But I'm sort of just so happy to have the ability to eat healthier foods that I'm taking advantage of it. That probably makes sense, I'm sure, in a way.
Oh yeah. What was prison food like?
Oh, it was just like extremely high sodium, while in prison, despite the fact that, obviously I wasn't, taking any anabolics, my blood pressure stayed high. Just about, 90% of the prison population has high blood pressure. Obviously, that's due to the fact that there's a lot of sodium and preservatives in the food they're serving, just to keep, probably increase the shelf life, I'm sure. And, for breakfast, you might have, oatmeal, an apple that's made, feed deers, like a deer feed apple, and maybe, some sort of high sugar pastry. Yeah, exactly. That's sort of the face that you would give when you're handed your, shitty ass apple every morning. Then sort of for lunch, you might have some pasta dish. And then for dinner, it's probably some sort of meat or chicken with, maybe tacos or something of that nature. But obviously the food is, very far from anything that you would actually willingly want to eat.
Hey, so I was watching you do squats with, I always remember the videos, but where you're squatting like 495 and the bar is like flying off your back. Is that because you're just going so fast? Like, I mean, I've never seen that before. It's just insane. Or when you're doing like the 315 behind the neck presses, is that that's just because you're just freaking flying with it, or what? Like,
oh, well, in those particular instances, I'm just trying to apply as much force as possible to the bar just to keep it as consistent until I hit the top set. Once the top set's over, whatever it is for that day, I might drop down to a lower weight and perform them with a little bit more control just to break down more muscle fiber and grow more muscle from it. But, while I'm sort of, just warming up to go up to a high single, I want to, be in the habit of applying as much force as possible to the bar. Does it sort of make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. You ever do that, Pete, where it would fly off your back like that?
I saw Chris and Eric Lillybridge do it all the time, but I mean, they were faster lifters. Chris specifically. That's the first thing I noticed when I first saw him train or like met him. I was like, the speed was unreal. Like, I don't think I've seen some fast lifters, but I've never seen somebody that explosive. The explosive power was unmatched. So it was just something that they could do, and not everybody's got that kind of fast twitch, explosion basically. But now, do you think you're going to get back into powerlifting, competing, or anything, or what do you just being healthier? What are you thinking?
Oh, I'm thinking like it's sort of a longer term goal. Obviously I'm lifting weights heavy right now, and trying to make progress. But, it's like I can't necessarily, take a bunch of drugs and sit at home eating massive amount of foods and not work at this point in time when I'm mandated to have a full-time job. So it's not exactly like, the most opportune time to, try to work up to a 900 or something, deadlift or whatever you want to, say. But, as the future goes on, obviously, right now I'm just slowly, getting back to where I was. And then, hopefully I get to the point where I have the opportunity to have a little bit of time that I can sort of allocate to being really strong. Because I'm sure Pete knows, and anyone else that, really gets to a very high level, when you get to that level, your day, pretty much every day has to be focused around being strong for that one workout that, week or two. It's not just, that day. It's not just, a couple days. It's pretty much everything you're doing from waking up to going to sleep that whole month, Would you agree, Pete?
100%. Like, you have to, it's consistency. It's something you have to do day in and day out. It's not like you can just do a week or a couple weeks hard and then that's it. It's like it just keeps going and going and going, never ends. So I get that. Now, are you still in contact ever with the Lillybridges or anything?
I've heard from Ernie and Ernie a little bit. I think I talked to Eric when I was on the cell phone on the prison camp. They're obviously some of the nicest people you'll ever meet, and they're just making sure I'm okay, which is awesome.
See, I remember those pro gym days, man. That was where it was at. Like, we'd have these Saturday sessions at pro gym with deadlifts, and we'd be there for like 5 hours. And there was even a time where Lehman was training there for a while. Like, he moved to Illinois for maybe a couple months. And it was literally Lehman, the Lillybridges, Hickson. Like, I'd come down there every once in a while, and this was the craziest sessions you could imagine. Just it just nothing was like it, man. I mean, I kind of miss those days. It just was a big event. It was a huge event.
That's absolutely true. And what sort of was great about those workouts was it made it so much easier for the rest of the weeks between those workouts to be 100% geared towards getting ready to go down there. Like, it's like, well, you know, do I go out, you know, party or whatever? I'm just using that as an example. I'm not saying for myself. Do I go out and party tonight, you know, miss a meal, you know, not get enough rest? Or do I make sure, you know, I'm strong for when we got this big workout with the strongest people in the world coming up in a couple weeks?
Yeah, there was nothing like it. And now Pro Gym's not even around. It's crazy, man. It's crazy how fast things change, because we trained at a few different gyms. We trained at like Jacked Hardcore and stuff. And obviously, I know you guys went to some other gyms after that, but I just remember those Pro Gym days, and that was kind of early on. That's what got me into the heavier weights and like really pushing it. So
Absolutely.
I just look fondly.
I mean, there was a period of time there where you really ratcheted it up from, like, you know, I think it was maybe you just hit 700 or just above 700, you know, and it felt like, you know, within 2 weeks, obviously I'm exaggerating, but you were already at 800. You know, there was just a time there that your progress just absolutely took off.
I have no idea how that happened, you know. that was the old remember the old Emdrol off Amazon?
Oh, absolutely.
When you could get Emdrol is a Superdrol clone. It's basically Superdrol, and you could get this stuff right off Amazon. Like, you go in, just order it Amazon, no problem, completely legal. That stuff was the strongest stuff out there, hands down. I mean, it was the strongest. Crazy strength.
I still think that Emdrol is probably a little bit stronger than Anadrol, but they're fairly comparable.
Dude, in my opinion, Emdrol blows away, and Superdrol in general, it blows away Anadrol. Like, it's not even close.
I would agree completely. The only thing is it's a little bit easier to abuse the Anadrol and take it at a higher dose than the Emdrol, where you really start to get toxic quick at higher doses. Would you agree?
Oh, 100%. Because people can ratchet Anadrol up into, you know, crazy doses, but Emdrol will mess your world up real fast if you're like going too high with it. Because a little bit goes a long way with that stuff. Super liver toxic, but the strength was incredible.
Well, what would be your opinion on maybe, like, for someone that wants to avoid any of, like, the liver and health stuff, to take maybe like an Emdrol, you know, like a 10 milligram 3 times or 4 times a week, and have, you know, a full, you know, abstaining from it like every other day? Do you still think that would possibly work for, you know, increasing strength?
I mean, I think you could take Emdrol once a week and you get stronger, but like that stuff was just, from what I've seen with all my blood panels and stuff, not that I do it all the time, like, I'm going to be honest, nobody wants to do blood work when they're on cycle because it looks like a disaster. And that's the straight up truth. Like, it's freaking scary how bad your blood work can get if you're on a heavy cycle. Whereas if you're on like a cruise dose of test or something, your blood work's going to be pretty good for the most part. And like, all orals completely tank HDL cholesterol, 100%. So like, your cholesterol could be cut, your HDL cholesterol, your good cholesterol could be cut 80%. And it's like, that's even more severe with the toxic liver steroids and stuff. So they're harsh, man.
Harsh, but work.
So I was gonna start this off with this, but we went to prison instead. But so I had a buddy, and he's a skateboarder, and he said he was at a skate park, and like this world-class skater was there, you know? And he said this guy was just trying the craziest tricks he's ever seen in his life. I mean, they were just like insane, but the dude was wrecking, and he said the guy was taking hits that were just unreal. Like, I mean, cracking his head on the ground, you know, like, I mean, just like slamming it in cement, and then just getting up and doing it again. And then he found out the dude was on painkillers. He was just taking a bunch of painkillers, and he would just wipe out like 1,000 times, you know, to get these world-class tricks. And what I wanted to ask both you guys, like, when did you guys realize that, like, this is a part of elite sports and athletes use performance-enhancing drugs and stuff to, you know, to achieve what they do achieve? Like, when did you guys realize that? Like, at what point were you like enlightened and were like, oh, this is part of this?
I'll let Pete go first. Obviously, you know, he's the more popular person here. More people want to hear his opinion. Let's put it first.
I don't think so, dude. I'm not as I'll tell you what, dude. I hit my peak popularity in like 2016. Now I'm kind of going on that down slope where people are like, oh, there's stronger people. We don't care as much. That's serious. But anyway, no, I think everybody comes to
you guys are awesome, bro. Both of you guys are freaking awesome. So go ahead. Sorry.
Everybody's all about the newest and latest, strongest lifters. I'm being honest. That's how it works in the sport. You get your 15 minutes of fame, and then it's kind of like you can hang around, but people don't care as much. But that's a tangent anyway. No, but as far as like people taking stuff in other sports, it's just a part of the game. Like, you know, every single sport out there that people are taking performance-enhancing drugs. And I don't know exactly what they're taking or what their doses are, but 100% it's idiotic to think that that's not a thing. I'm not going to say every single athlete takes them, but the majority, I would say, are doing something. It's just that's sport. I don't know when I exactly realized it, but like, it's so obvious to me now. I can look at an NFL player and be like, there's no way that's natural. Like, you can just tell by the body shape, the muscle shape. You know, even if it's a genetic freak, you know what's possible and what's not. So it's like, I'm skeptical of almost everyone now. Like, I don't believe anyone as far as the doses they say they take, because everybody lies about it. Like, I don't believe anybody. I don't believe anything, because what interest does it serve to tell people, oh, I take 5 grams, and you know, people are just gonna be like, oh, I could do the same thing, even though they couldn't. But like, people don't want to say that, you know, and athletes don't want the truth to get out. You know, I think all the sports kind of mask it for them. Like, they don't want people to know the reality of it, because everybody would be so shocked and upset. So it's like the whole Barry Bonds scandal is such a joke to me, because I'm like, he was doing what everybody else was doing. So it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I would say for me personally, I would almost find something wrong with the people that claim to want to be so good if they're not willing to do whatever it takes. You know, it doesn't make sense to me that you would say you want to be the best and you're not going to take something that instantly makes you stronger. Or not instantly, but it's like, you know, it'll make a significant difference. All you got to do is take it every week. Why wouldn't you take it?
Yeah. That makes perfect sense. I mean, especially because you're talking about the most elite athletes. It's like,
they're getting paid millions of dollars.
Yeah, and if this makes you stronger, why? Yeah, exactly. Why wouldn't they take it?
Go ahead. Do people really think LeBron James is natural and stuff? Like, come on. No.
Some people do. You know, this is funny because before I watched, so for me personally, Bigger, Stronger, Faster, and Icarus kind of changed my whole entire view, because I remember being a kid and telling my uncle, like, getting in a big old fight with him, because I was like, Ronnie Coleman is natural. I thought he was. I was like, he's just disciplined and he eats 6 pounds of chicken every day. And I literally thought, like, he was so disciplined. I just didn't, you know what I mean? Because it wasn't an open thing, you know? It wasn't like people talked about it back then. I'm a little older than you guys, so I was a little bit, you know, further back. And before Bigger, Stronger, Faster and all that, you know what I mean? People, it was like there was this portrayal that athletes are all natural and stuff like that, you know? That's how people, I don't know why. I think it's for sponsors. Sponsors don't want to support, you know, drugs, I guess. I think that's why the NFL tries to portray that we do drug testing and stuff. It's like, there's no way, dude. They tell you they're doing it. You know, we're going to drug test you on Saturday, May 16th every year, right? We do drug testing.
I mean, I think some of the like sponsors are getting better about that though, because like, I know Animal nowadays, they don't care at all. Like, you could be as open and honest as you want about taking stuff, and they're like, whatever. And I'm not with them anymore, but like, they're really cool with that. They don't care, you know. Everybody knows it's obvious. So it's getting a little better as far as like being more open about that sort of thing. Like, people aren't gonna like box you into a corner and say, oh my gosh, like, nobody cares anymore. And there's been IPF lifters where I'm like, man, I don't know how that guy's natural, but then they go on stuff and you're like, okay. Namely John Hack, like, when he was winning the IPF Worlds and stuff, and I saw how strong he was getting, I had some doubts, man, because I was around the guy way back in the day in Madison, Wisconsin. Like, I hung out with him, And I'm like, dude, how is this guy so freaking strong naturally? Like, I didn't even want to believe it myself because it made me feel bad about how I was doing. And then he got on stuff, and now he's like got the best Wilks all time. So I'm just like, all right, well, there's definitely some people out there. Another one, Jamal Browner, just pulled 970 like a joke, and I'm just like, okay, well, he was pulling 800 naturally. So it's just you can definitely get some crazy freaks. And that other guy, another one that comes to mind, Luke Richardson, that UK strongman, he pulled 400 kilos as a heavyweight natural, and now he's gonna pull 1100. I'm serious. Like, I've been following his progress as he transitions to strongman, and he'll probably win World's Strongest Man, no doubt, and continue to up the record. So there are some like strong natural people, but you can tell by looking at someone's physique. 100%, you can tell. The physique does not lie with the muscle shapes and stuff.
That's fairly true. I mean, when you got, veins and striation in your delts and you still have a fairly large gut, it doesn't exactly make sense.
Well, not even that. Like, you see those round, like, just the shape of people. Like, you can't look like that naturally. 99% of people. So I don't know. I'm skeptical.
I think I told Pete. I think I told you before that I used to be a bouncer downtown San Jose, and I saw Vernon Davis there. And this guy is so massive, dude. I mean, I looked at him and I was like, if I like people sucker punch somebody, like I was like, if I sucker tackled this guy, I would break his neck. Like, that's how big he is. I mean, it looked like I would he looks like a horse.
That's a great example. Vernon Davis is jacked out of his mind. I'm like, he played in the NFL.
Yeah, he looks like the Predator from the Predator movie. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, Chris, I mean, I seen your dunk videos too, man. You're like a freak athlete, kind of. I mean, was that just something you always were like that? It's kind of, you're like a very unique person, I feel like, because you have such long limbs. It doesn't seem like you would be built for powerlifting, but then, there's videos of you doing 100-pound dumbbells like they're feathers. It's ridiculous.
Well, yeah, I mean, obviously right now, I'm currently actually weighing about, over 260 pounds. I left prison at almost 280 pounds. And when I was, sort of at 280, I could barely dunk, but I actually am just going through the rehab and getting the strength back in the ruptured quadriceps. But obviously, when I was a little bit lighter, and when you mix, a high level of strength and explosiveness with, a relatively, low body weight, you should be able to jump high. And if you're not, then it's sort of just a coordination thing. If you have someone that's extremely strong and extremely light, if they're not jumping high, they probably just need to actually perform the activity of jumping, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Neurological, like just the skill of it.
Exactly. It's like when you have someone that's training, for like a race or something, like a 5K, and they think they should go start swimming or something. It's kind of funny, Why wouldn't you actually do the activity that you're going to be competing in? So if like someone wants to actually jump higher, obviously I would recommend, jumping.
Yeah. Be specific, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I still have never dunked, so I got huge props, man. I've never been able to pull it off. I'm like 6 feet tall, and I'm always like, damn it, why can't I dunk? But
well, how have you tried?
Dude, I haven't tried in like at least 6 years. I'm too scared to now. Now I'm like, I'm gonna freaking tear my ACL or something if I try that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it probably would be the smarter thing to do is to stay away from the jumping as you get that strong, to be honest with you, unless you're like, it's like dependent upon you, maybe your success, like as an athlete to jump, and obviously they train so they're able to safely, perform those activities. But it is sort of, just kind of cool, in the past to post some of those things because obviously, people are a little bit shocked. At one point it was like, 45 inches or so. So obviously I was like, why not, take a video and post it.
Yeah, I remember that one video where it looked like you were going to grab the rim and then you put your hands down and like touch the rim with your head. That was ridiculous.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, again, it's just, having that strength to body weight, sort of ratio, and then actually, practicing jumping enough where you're efficient at jumping, I would say is the only reason I was able to do that.
So were you able to I'm going off on a tangent again. Were you able to follow along with powerlifting at all while you were in prison, or did you come out and didn't know anything about how things were now, as far as what people are doing?
Pretty much it was like a giant shock to how strong people have gotten.
I wonder.
I see this guy, repping out these sumo deadlifts raw for 1,000 pounds with, it looks like a running back or something in the NFL, but he's repping out 1,000-pound sumo deadlifts. It's just insane.
You talking about Jamal Browner, or who are you talking about?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah.
Yeah, what'd you think of that? Somebody pulling 971 like a joke, stuff like that.
It's just hard to comprehend.
I know, because back in our day, when it was just us around and not that many people, we were the man. We were pulling 800 plus, and that's what was up. If you were pulling 800 plus, you were the man. Nobody else was touching that. There were only a few out there. Remember Brent Willis?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, freaking Brent Willis fell off the face of the earth. What happened to that guy?
I have absolutely no idea. I think just the other day I was reading a powerlifting, thread on Reddit, and it was saying that he just fell off the face of the earth, so I think that's pretty much
the one I was talking about. A lot of these guys, remember Cade Weber too?
Oh yeah, super strong.
Cade Weber was he was the best 242 in the game, and he had us all beat by 250 pounds on his total.
Mm-hmm.
And now, I don't know what he's up to, so it's crazy. And then to see the numbers now, because back in the day, he totaled 2,000, and now it's everybody's totaling 2,000, 2,100, 2,200. Just the progression of everything is just. I wonder where it's going to end. So,
why do you think people are so much stronger?
So more people in the sport. I mean, the things I'm seeing too, some of these IPF live better than what we had. So sometimes I wish we had held off a little long and just developed our natural base for a longer period of time.
Mm-hmm. You're breaking up a little bit. I don't know if Scott is Pete breaking up a little bit for you.
Yeah, we've had this happen a few times. We just keep going, and if he has to, he might have to sign out, and then I'll just add him back in. There, he's back though. What is Larry Wheels' total? Does he still have the record at 242? Pete?
I think he does, right?
What's that?
Does Larry Wheels still have the record at 242?
Breaking up on me a little bit.
Have you seen Larry?
No, because
Have you seen Larry? I'm sure you've seen Larry.
Pete? Is that for Pete or me, Scott?
Well, it was for Pete, but I don't know if it's getting through to him.
You think he's just ignoring us?
Back. I can hear you.
Oh, there he is.
Oh, I was asking.
It's weird sometimes.
Does Larry Wheels still have the record at 242?
No, because Kevin Oak broke it, and then Jamal Browner broke it.
Wow.
But they both.
They both what?
They both chipped it by 2.5 kilos. So the record was 2171. Now it's 2182 or something, or 88.
That's crazy though. That's crazy because Larry Wheels is probably the freakiest dude. Would you say?
Yeah, he's definitely the freak of freaks, but there's still a lot of guys out there now who are just ridiculous.
Were you ever much of a bencher, Chris? I can't remember.
No. My highest ever, when I trained it super hard, I think was a 395-ish, with Lily Bridges, Eric, I think specifically, just keeping his hands on the bar, making sure, I stay in my groove. And that was training it super hard. So one of my goals is to, as I, get back into it and get strong again, is obviously to hit a 4 plate at least, I think that should be like the bare minimum. But when I was very young, at age 13, I actually tore off my left pec. And then at age 18 or 17, I tore off my right pec. So that's sort of been why, I was so, stayed away from training the bench hard for so long.
Yeah, I mean, I think both of you guys, that's kind of your only thing. Like, if you guys had a little, like obviously Larry Wheels' bench is like 650. So
yeah, it doesn't even make sense how good his bench is.
Yeah, your other lifts are pretty comparable though, right? I mean, you guys both. I know Pete squats almost 8, deadlifts almost 9.
Mm-hmm.
What's your best squat, Chris?
Knee wraps 749, and then I did a short training cycle without knee wraps. I think I did a 660 without them.
Yeah, that's right there.
But obviously, there's a lot to be said for like, just the amount of time. If I was to spend 6 months or 2 years, training specifically for strength, I'm sure I would be able to, accomplish some very, good numbers that are better than, what I've done in the past. But ever since I'd say 2013, 2012, I don't really train for strength for any significant period of time, just because, things in real life come up. When I had like the steroid company, obviously that was, sort of my priority, is just dealing with all the orders, and training fell back. Then when I do get rated, what sort of happens was, I'm sort of thinking I'm going to prison soon. I honestly got pretty wild. I was doing all types of shit. You
were seeing the shadow people.
That's definitely the point in time when the shadow people came into play.
Yeah, we were talking a little bit before.
The thing is, there's a phenomenon known as like shadow people. When been up for a certain number of days, when you actually see in shadows, and dark cars and whatnot, it definitely looks like people, are watching you. And if you actually Google this, look on different forums and Reddit, it's actually fairly common. So what I experienced, at least I had some security in the fact that a lot of people experience this phenomenon.
So if you're up for long enough, you see shadow people. You get so delirious.
Yeah, and you also get paranoid to the sense, so you make up scenarios to why they're after you.
Are you sure it just wasn't the trend?
That I was actually completely natural at that point in time, but I don't think trend would help.
Bro. It was something else. You don't stay up for a week because of trend, right?
Trend will just make you super paranoid and you think everyone's out to get you.
Well, on trend, it's more so you realize that everyone's out to get you, I think.
There were I could go on 100 years with stories about trend, but that stuff was. That's like.
Something real quick. I'll be right back. But Pete's good right now. So I'll be right back.
You guys always like DECA more than trend, didn't you?
Oh, I always thought, whenever I did take trend, to have at least a little bit of DECA in, what I was taking, due to the fact that the trend seems to make you so prone to like carrying different things. I don't know, I'm sure you experienced your fair share, as we all did, from the trend of injuries, and sort of to mitigate that, having some form of nandrolone, whether it be like NPP or a little bit of DECA, sort of, yes, on the internet, you're going to read that it's going to increase your progestin super high and you're going to get crazy side effects. But personally speaking, I never experienced any of those. I don't know if you had an opinion on it.
Yeah, so like trend, I mean, that was my go-to because DECA always had sides. Like, that was it. DECA shut me down so hard, man. I can't run it. It just shuts me down like crazy. So I always like trend, but I got crazy bad sides from trend as far as like mentally, because it would just turn me into like a crazy person. I don't know if you got that, but I would literally turn into a psychopath on trend, to where I couldn't talk to people. I'd walk around, I'd be staring everybody down, like I wanted to fight them all. Like everybody I walked by, I was like, I want to fight them, and just had crazy anger, man, like ridiculous. Like I was just ready to destroy everybody I saw, and libido was crazy. It was just I couldn't even handle like life. Like I couldn't even function like a normal human being because I was so worked up all the time. I don't know. Did you get any of that?
Well, yeah, obviously, I can relate to a lot of it. Would you say, like, was it dose dependent? The higher your dose went, sort of the more intensified you felt like that?
I kid you not, on Tren Ace, it didn't even matter. I could take 200 milligrams a week, or I could take 700 milligrams a week right before a meet, and that stuff would destroy me. Like, no matter what, 200 milligrams, I was still hothead. I was still ready to get after everybody I saw. Like, it was crazy aggression, man.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people always talk about like the test suspensions and stuff for aggression, but nothing brought the aggression out like Tren Ace.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would definitely say it's also like a 24-hour thing with the trend where you can't really turn it off, though, when you're outside the gym.
No, it was just every single day of my life. Like, I was just like, I hate everyone. And I was strong as heck, though. I mean, my best total was on it, but that stuff was like, made life impossible. But the thing about it that was so cool would be like, you could be having a crappy training cycle leading up to a meet, and then if I added that in, it would all come together. So I could be like completely off course, and then I start taking that, and my strength blows up, and I'm like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, that's pretty true. Would you say that recently you have been staying away from it then completely?
Yeah, dude, I haven't taken it in 2.5 years.
Oh, wow.
Not quite 2.5 years, but I've taken other stuff, but like, I stayed away from that one because honestly, that one, like I said, you can't keep a relationship and stuff, and like everything's just rough. Actually, there's been periods where I haven't taken it before, but it's easy to turn back to because, like I've said before, nothing helps my strength like that. Like, that's like the best. It's just it comes with a lot of harsh side effects mentally.
So were you actually able to surpass your best numbers without it?
No.
Hey, he's getting married though, man. So life changes,
Yeah. Chris, I'm trying, bro. I'm trying to surpass. Like, I totaled 2,100 when I was like, oh god, well, I think it was test Tren and some oral. I don't even remember which oral it was. And I'm trying to surpass that, but man, it's freaking way harder because like that was like the magic, golden ticket, dude. So I run other stuff, but I'm just trying to. It's going to be harder to do it without that.
Mm-hmm. Is there for someone that's not been around, would you say there's anything worth to all these new SARMs that came out recent years?
Oh, I've seen some crazy results off people doing SARMs only cycles. So I think, like, I know John Hack started out when he first started going enhanced. He started with SARM cycles and he got really strong. And I think a lot of SARMs are comparable to like taking a test only cycle. So I don't know. We don't know what they do. Like, we don't know the side effects of them, but a lot of people do start with SARMs because they are legal. They're much more easily accessible, and they're comparable to like starting off and stuff.
Right.
I don't know. I've never been big on them myself, but I know a lot of people like MK677 and stuff like that. Osterine. There's a bunch of them, but.
Well, yeah, with that one, I mean, I've used that one for years, but the only purpose it served for me was actually some joint prevention, and like I think it increased the strength of my tendons and ligaments.
MK?
Yeah, MK. I don't think it really added much strength, but I definitely felt like I was almost to some degree lubed up, like on a low amount of DECA.
It's because MK isn't it a GH precursor? It's kind of like helps with hunger, that sort of thing. Helps you eat more. I don't know. There's all sorts of stuff, but
yeah, there's so many of them. Versus back in the day when we were really hitting hard, there was only like a couple out. So it just seemed like there's so many more new drugs out.
I still think everybody goes back to the basics, though. I think if you go to like a big time powerlifting meet, I think the name of the game is trend for everybody. If I'm being honest, that's why, like, I don't. It's hard to compete without it at a high level, in my opinion. I know some people prefer other things, but like it's hard to stay with the big boys without it. And I don't know, man.
When do you plan your next trend cycle?
Never. Sure, dude, it's like dancing with the devil. Like, it's gonna give you all these gains, but you also know it's gonna F your world up, more or less for me. And I know a lot of other people can handle it much better than myself, but it hit me hard, man. Like, I would get a crazy good result off it, but it was very detrimental to everything else. So you got to kind of pick your poison. And now I just try to do other stuff. You know, it's like, but I'm still trying to get to that 2100, and I'm banged up now. I got some injuries. Like I've talked about this in some of the other podcasts, the injuries and such as you get older. Like we pushed it, man. We got a lot of wear and tear in our bodies. We battle these injuries. I got a disc injury. I got a hip injury, and it's just trying to work around that stuff. But it's funny, guys, because like right now I've been on 125 milligrams of test a week since my meet. So I did a deadlift only meet in in Tulsa, Oklahoma, on March 14th, and since then I've been on 125 a week of test, half CC, and like I feel so much weaker. It's not even funny. Like I pulled 644 today, beltless, and it felt like 800 pounds. So it's crazy, man.
Yeah, I watched your video, and you were saying that you were like, I don't feel good. You said you're gonna do a deload next week.
Yeah, I feel great as far as health and everything, and I've lost like 10 pounds from being on cycle for the meet, but it just isn't. The strength is crazy. You don't have that explosive power. Like I'm not explosive right now, and I'm sure part of that is beltless as well because I'm not used to doing that. But like 644 should not be feeling that slow, you know. So it's a different ball game with different things.
What about you, Chris? Like, did you come out of prison and start lifting? Like, what are you doing? Are you training? I mean, and I know you're not so focused on it, but and what was the experience like though? Because you actually said you gained weight though too in prison, right?
Right. I mean, well, in prison, maybe 2 or 3 times a week, I did like planks and push-ups and jumping jacks. You know, not like every day or anything like that. But I got up to 280 pounds. So like my upper body got super big, you know, obviously naturally. So since I've been out, I've just been, you know, trying to squat, you know, 2 to 3 times a week, do some sort of assistant exercises for, you know, the hamstrings and posterior chain, you know, really frequently. And then do like pressing, you know, 1 to 3 times a week. With, you know, obviously when it's more frequent, I dial back the intensity and, you know, just to get some more volume in, because obviously I want to be able to burn enough calories where I'm in a calorie deficit to reduce my body weight. You know, ideally speaking, you know, I could get down to like 240 to 250, you know, super lean, you know, and then, you know, if I get, you know, any supplements that, you know, for some reason get me really strong, you know, into my system somehow, you know, I could just take off from there.
Are you allowed to take HRT? Like, is that allowed?
Oh yeah, and it definitely seems like you can almost just get it online from Florida now, right?
Well, no, I'm just saying like because you're on like you're kind of on probation or whatever. Are like do they test you for that kind of stuff? Like, would you be allowed to have a prescription?
I would definitely be allowed to have a prescription, but you know, obviously, even if I didn't, you know, hypothetically, I'm not one to go against the law in any way. Their tests don't test for, you know, hormones, you know, it's just they're testing for like the big 5, I believe, you know, opiates, cocaine, marijuana, methamphetamine, amphetamine, you know, MDMA, and like barbiturates.
Have you had your test levels checked or anything like that?
No, I don't think their test is going to the negatives, so I don't think that would be much purpose for me. No, I haven't actually had them tested.
Great, man. You look really healthy. You look good.
Oh yeah, thanks. I appreciate it. Obviously, there was a period of time while I was, you know, on the pre-trial where I was checked into a hospital because my liver was, you know, 3 times the size of a normal liver and bleeding out. So all that was reversed within a month. The thing is, with all these, you know, drugs, you know, illicit drugs, steroids, whatever drugs that affect your liver and they're super toxic, the liver does regenerate. So, you know, I was in a position where my liver was giant and bleeding out, and now I'm dealing with a perfectly healthy liver, and all my liver enzymes that were checked in prison multiple times were in perfect range.
Wow.
How the heck did that happen though? Like, what were you doing?
So one of the issues was, you know, I have a sort of a personality that's addictive. So the first sort of thing that got me was I took a job, and then, you know, I was working, and I took another job on top of that job, and then I took another job on that job. So I was working 3 full-time jobs almost. Meanwhile, you know, I get exposed to, you know, certain substances that allow me to have the energy to do all these jobs. Meanwhile, I have a a little bit some orals laying around, that might help me recover a little bit. So I add in, some orals, some, different, illegal stimulants that might give you the energy to work 3 jobs. Meanwhile, I'm getting no sleep.
Wow.
You combine that with no sleep, and your body doesn't have any time to heal.
Dang, dude. Did you not feel like when your liver was getting destroyed like that, did you not feel nauseous or like?
Yep. The nauseous was I was definitely nauseous all the time. Like when I would start eating, I noticed that it would start, I'd have to throw it up. Another thing I would notice, I'd have absolutely no energy. So that would lead to me using certain substances that were more liver toxic in order just to have a sufficient amount of energy to do anything.
Wow.
Wait, what? Hold up. Any pill is kind of like liver toxic, right? For the most part, any like ibuprofen is liver toxic.
Yep.
What the hell are you talking about?
Oh, he's talking about the real stuff, bro.
What kind of real stuff? Like there's Adderall.
I'm talking about everything except, crystal meth. I've never touched crystal meth, but everything else that you can imagine.
Are you serious, dude?
Yes.
Absolutely. And the problem is I try it once with my personality, all of a sudden I go from once to, it's like 15 times a day.
Okay. So how much worse is that the real stuff than like steroids? Or as far as how you feel on the sides and stuff?
Wait, what exactly is the question?
Like how much the real stuff, How much worse is that than steroids as far as how you feel and like what you thought of it?
Oh, I mean, it's tremendously worse for your body. But, while you're under the influence of it, you feel great. So you end up getting to the point where you start feeling shitty again and you do more of the drug to feel great again. So you never actually get a factual representation of how your body's feeling because you just run and do more of the drug to feel better.
That makes perfect sense because that's how they explain it.
Do you think that going to prison helped your life then?
Well, it definitely was allowed me to, get off any substance I was using. I was able to detox my body for, over 2 years. So, in that sense, absolutely. On the other side of the coin, I sort of knew what I was doing in terms of being all wild for a few years while I was on pretrial waiting to go to prison. I knew it was only going to be for so long. And, once I got the prison behind me, it's not like I'm going to get out, and go back to using, recreational drugs. It's just not something that's, leads to me reaching my goals.
Dude, your heart rate must have been insane on that kind of stuff.
I mean, the thing is, okay, let's say you do have that. What you do is you want to take a sort of a drug that's a downer to sort of alleviate that.
Yes, come on, tell us everything.
Holy shit.
So, let's say you do too much of a drug that really speeds you up. Why don't you could take a Vicodin, you could take a Percocet, you could take something like that to help alleviate it. If you don't have one of those hardcore drugs, you just go ahead and start having some vodka shots.
Oh,
wow.
Dude.
Then you realize you've had too many and you have to drive. So what do? You go back to doing more of the drug. Then you realize.
Chris.
Yeah.
How are you alive right now, bro?
I mean, and the point is, when you're in the moment, you don't even realize how crazy, your life has become.
So do you think you'd still be doing that if you didn't get sent to prison?
Oh, absolutely not. I wouldn't have started.
Oh, okay, but I'm saying okay, I get what you're saying. You're saying you started because you're like, oh, prison's coming, I might as well live it up.
Exactly. I'm like, and I'm already labeled a, convicted felon, I might as well, see some of, sides of what actual criminals do.
Damn, dude. That's crazy, man, because heart rate goes through the roof on pre-workout and stuff, some of that other stuff would be really harsh.
Well, yeah, absolutely. But let me think. I would say, once you get used to it, you don't even realize, your heart rate's how high it is. And whenever you're flooded with, good feeling, whether it's dopamine or whatever other, neurotransmitters, even if you have, stuff going on that's, whether it's pain or whatever, it sort of blunts all the other negative feelings that you might be feeling, and you just sort of feel fine. Meanwhile, you're drenching your clothes, and you take your jacket off, and you're all wet. People are like, what, you just go swimming? No, no, it's the middle of the winter, and you look like you just went swimming. But that's just, it's just the good feelings overwhelm sort of the negative feelings that your body should be giving you from having, the excess heart rate, you're heating up, stuff of that nature.
So literally the drugs trick your body into like feeling fine.
Well, yeah, you're just flooded with such, positive feeling that you don't even notice all the bad stuff.
And that's why they're so addicting, because you're just like, I just want to keep feeling good, and then you'll never feel the pain and stuff. Holy crap.
So what were you taking that would keep you up for a week? I mean, what does that?
Well, to stay on the legal side of the question, I was actually prescribed ADHD meds. And, when you choose to take more instead of going to sleep, you can do that indefinitely, it begins to add up.
We talking Adderall?
Adderall, Focalin, which is, the new version of Ritalin. It's like dexmethylphenidate. They're basically, they're almost stronger than cocaine in a sense. So like, cocaine is obviously infamous for, being a stimulant and being an upper and, people partying. But, these legal, stimulants that they give to, grade schoolers for their ADHD are pretty much just as strong, to be honest with you.
Wow. They're giving kids cocaine.
Dude.
Pretty close to it.
I once took this pre-workout called ESP Extreme. It's got like 500 milligrams of caffeine, and that stuff hit me so hard. The crash afterward, I was like, "This is terrible for you. It has to be," because the crash was insane, and like I was so jacked up out of my mind. I had crazy focus and energy, and then it just was like fell off the face of the earth. So that's just pre-workout, dude.
Mm-hmm. The difference between the pre-workouts and more of like the real hard stimulants is the pre-workouts are going to be increasing more of the norepinephrine, and like the really hard illegal stimulants are going to be increasing the dopamine a little bit more so than the norepinephrine. So that's why you have like with like the illegal drugs, your body necessarily doesn't have an excess of physical energy, but you're just as amped up mentally.
Damn, dude.
I'll tell you guys, this might have been before your time, but because I was like in high school when they had the original Xenadrine. I don't know if you guys ever tried that stuff. That stuff was amazing. I mean, it was like, I would take that and I would be like the Terminator from T2. I would just be like so focused and never get tired. I mean, it was unreal. That stuff was it had ephedrine in it,
Yeah. Well, the classic fat burning stack of, ephedrine, caffeine, and aspirin, is pretty effective. Just imagine, taking that on top of the other, illegal stimulants. At that point in time, I was definitely a stimulant junkie. So, I would mix everything.
Cleanse some serious stuff if you get a high enough dose. Your hands will be like, like you're trying to write and you're like.
Why would you take that, Pete? Why would you take cleanse?
When I was young, I just was like, gotta get ripped, dude.
Oh, for your bodybuilding?
I haven't touched that stuff in a million years. That stuff is freaking terrible for you. Made me feel like garbage. Like, I felt so crappy on that stuff. Like, I'd be shaking all the time. And, like, because your heart rate goes up on it in your body temperature. And the worst thing about it was if you didn't have taurine on hand, you'd have these horrific cramps in the middle of the night. So you'd be, like, trying to sleep and your hamstring would cramp up or your calf. And you'd be like, and this would happen all night long. So you have to take like a ton of taurine to combat it, and it's terrible for you. But that was back in the day, way long ago. That was kind of like when I was like around Hickson and training with him. But I haven't taken that stuff in forever because it's just I felt horrendous on it.
Yeah, I would agree completely. That's pretty much how it goes with the cleanse. Obviously, it's effective, but at what price?
Cleanse harsh, man. Cleanse harsher than test for sure. Test isn't bad at all. People are always trying to stigmatize that. But I'm like, cleanse is some serious stuff, dude. It can be if it's dosed properly.
What does it do?
Absolutely.
What's Clem do to you?
I believe it just amps up your nervous system. It also allows your fat cells to essentially break down, fatty acids to be used as energy by your cells. Does that sound right?
Yeah. I stay away from that stuff, man.
How about the old school Jack 3D with
Oh my
dimethylene?
God. Bro, you remember when I was sponsored by them and Ernie was too? Yeah,
Yep.
freaking way back in the day, Lily Bridge Jr. and we were sponsored by USP Labs. They would just send me the stuff every freaking week. Like I wish I had saved it up because I could sell that stuff for $100 now. I'd be like, I remember when they shut it down, they couldn't sell it anymore. They still had so much in back order on in stock that they're like, hey, just let us know. We can keep sending it to you for years. And then eventually, like, I went to Animal, but man, I could have stockpiled that stuff. And I did. I mean, I used to take like 3 scoops of that, and then I would take like a caffeine pill. I was freaking nuts. Like I don't know how I survived, but I guess that was because I was like 20 years old. But I wouldn't do that now.
Are you back on like ADHD stuff, Chris? Like, have you gotten to be able to get prescriptions from a doctor, or are you just totally on nothing now?
Oh yeah, I am. They actually send you to a psychiatrist that's affiliated with the supervised release. So, the thing is though, when I get really strong, I sort of have to dial back any use of that because it'll actually zap you all your strength.
Oh yeah.
So, while I'm like, losing weight and sort of, getting my life together as far as work goes and stuff like that, it might be advantageous for me to have it now. But as I get to a point where, I need to be eating a lot to get really strong, I need to be, sort of resting a lot, I sort of have to dial back its use to maybe just, a couple times a week.
Man.
And obviously,
What's that?
I mean, for someone that like myself that actually, really does have the ADHD, like there's a tremendous difference that I feel personally when I do take it. I go from being all over the place to being able to, actually read and actually write, at, large, say like a write up a letter, when normally, I can't even sit still, so it is sort of a life-changing, drug for people who do have it.
Now, on a serious note, like, don't you think the world we're in today, everybody's developing some degree of ADHD? Not like seriously, not like clinical like yours, but like just because there's so many, we're all on our phones all the freaking time, looking at stuff all the time, computers. It's always we're looking at the next thing, and like our brains become scatterbrained. Like it's hard to read a book nowadays. I think the world we're in now makes it really hard with that.
Right, I would agree. I mean, at the root cause of what actually causes ADHD, it's a deficiency in dopamine. So the reason that like someone might act out, like for instance, like, the 3rd grade school kid, he'll sort of act out during class. He's doing that to get the attention in order to boost his dopamine levels naturally. So when he's given such a drug that increases the dopamine in his brain, he doesn't feel the need to sort of act out and do these, performance-based stunts in front of the class to get his dopamine going because it's already supplied by the drug. So that's sort of how, they actually work. Does that sort of make sense?
Yeah, makes sense.
So obviously, the lifestyle that we live nowadays is sort of conducive to, having these dopamine bumps for, people, these fitness models, for example, they have to post every 6 hours and get, their 1,000, 2,000 likes, so they can feel good about themselves. It's sort of just driving people to reward-driven behavior, if you really think about it.
Well, how much of powerlifting is that today? Like, how much of powerlifting is people trying to post big lifts to get that attention? And like, I was guilty of that myself for a long time, where I was always like, I got to put something good on Instagram to get 5,000 likes, and then I'm gonna feel good about myself. And I'm kind of at the point now where the attention's died down quite a bit, and I'm just like, I don't even freaking care anymore. Like, if I lose subscribers and followers, it's just like whatever. I'm just gonna do my thing. But I used to check that stuff all the time and be like, oh, how many likes do I have now? And it just all like mattered to you because it made you feel good, and that becomes easy to fall into that addiction. It's so easy, and I think a lot of people do. It just
right, and in some ways it's almost a double-edged sword because, you know, it does drive you to, you know, get better, you know, since you want to do better, you want to keep, you know, getting that, you know, hit of, you know, good feeling from posting, you know, an impressive lift. At the other side of the coin, though, it's not always the most advantageous to be, you know, lifting such a heavy weight when it's not, you know, scheduled for your programming. You know, maybe you're supposed to be dialed back, you know, and you're supposed to actually do your best maybe at the meet rather, that's coming up in 8 weeks, not, you know, this week's, you know, supposed to be a moderate deadlift session, but, you know, you want to get, you know, the best you can for Instagram. You know, obviously short term, yeah, you're going to feel good. Long term, you're going to get to the meet, you're already burnt out. You know, what happens then?
I completely agree, because that's how it is. You know, you can either train with the end goal in mind and be smart about that, train for the meet, or you can train to impress people and like go off program all the time and do stupid stuff. So it's just not conducive in the long run to do that.
Now I'm interested because when we were talking to Dan Bell, Pete, the other day, you guys were talking about how there's like such a negative to going off cycle completely because it messes with your hormones so bad. But I was listening to Dave Palumbo. I don't know if you ever listen to that guy. He's like a bodybuilder dude. He said that when you go completely off cycle, it like resets your cell receptors to get the drugs or whatever, or get the test or whatever you're taking. Is there validity to that, or like, what do you think about that? What do you guys both think about that?
Well, you know, if you want me to go first, I think, you know, like I said, with the double-edged sword, it goes both ways. Obviously, there, you know, definitely is something to going off completely. And then when you go back on, it seems like everything's working a lot better than it used to work. But during that time, you know, it can definitely mess with your head when your lifts are going down 100 pounds, you know, and you definitely don't necessarily feel like pushing yourself to the right intensity that the workout might call for. So, you know, will it mess with you can mess with your head for sure. There's also something to be said with, you know, maybe dialing back the dosage to something that's, you know, within maybe, you know, just slightly high, you know, physiologically speaking levels, and just trying to maintain as much strength as you can on, you know, a very, you know, just a tiny bit. And then, you know, getting your health checked out and making sure everything's good. Okay, you know, I'm able to maintain 90% of my, you know, very best with only, you know, half a cc of test. And my blood, you know, test, they all check out. Okay, maybe it's time to ramp stuff up again. You know, that's another approach to have. So I almost could see both ones being valid in their own way. I don't know what Pete thinks.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, but even if you're on a half cc a test or even a cc a test, your lifts are still going to go down 100 pounds. I mean, it's straight up. I'm being real. So it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I think you can make the argument that receptor sensitivity increases at a very low dosage, just as it would on a PCT. Like, we don't know. There's never been scientific proof. And I know how I felt from the past. Like, I definitely think there is something in regards to androgen receptor sensitivity. I think that is a thing. Like, if you cycle for forever, you're going to get less out of it. Your body's not going to really respond to it as much anymore, just like with a recreational drug where you have to take more and more to get a response. But I think it could be argued that at a physiological dose, at a dose that puts you at a physiological level of testosterone, I think it could be argued that would also increase your androgen receptor sensitivity to the same degree as like a PCT. It's hard to say. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. But based on what I've done and what I've felt, it's possible. And Chris makes a good point. Like, you know, if you're doing a PCT or dropping your doses down to even a cruise dose, your lifts should go down substantially from what they were at a peak or on cycle. So why is it that we see so many lifters where their lifts never go down? You know, it just makes you realize, like, if a guy's lifting the same weights or even like in the same ballpark weights year round, you know he's cycling 24/7, like 365 days a year. The guys who see a great dip in their strength or they don't post for months on end, that's because they're kind of going off or going easy. But the guys who lift big weights year round, they never go off. And that's how you know. There should be a substantial dip.
Do you guys think that, because just hearing this, it's like making me think, do you guys think that it's good to compete? Because it almost seems like super unhealthy. Like, it's almost like the better way to go is to just train for your well-being. You know what I mean? Like, maybe it's probably healthy to do a TRT dose, right? It's like good for your body and maybe dabble with some stuff. But competing seems like it's extremely comes with a huge cost.
Well, I feel like anything in this world, when you get to an extremes, is going to be, detrimental to one thing or another. That's just like the checks and balances of how, nature works. When you push something hard enough, it's going to affect something else. And in that case, when you want to be, the strongest in the world, it might take, doing drugs to the point where they're going to have side effects, that you're going to have to deal with. That's just what the cost of doing whatever it takes.
100%. Like Lehman touched on this in plenty of videos where he's like, it's so freaking unhealthy to push things and take all the drugs. Like, and you'll feel it. Like if you're on a big cycle, you'll feel unhealthy and everything. And it's not healthy. There's nothing healthy about that. And the thing that sucks is like, if you want to do it in moderation or like try to do it in a healthy way, you're probably not going to hang with the people at the top. So it's that's why in some ways the natural side of things is a really good thing, because it gives people a chance to kind of hang. And I don't know how many people are cheating the system in that's a whole different argument. But obviously there are still some strong natural people out there, because like I said, John Hack won Worlds and then he got on gear and now he's just blowing everyone away. So there's a lot of arguments that can be made with that, but outside of taking tests, taking everything else is definitely not healthy. Like I think HRT doses and stuff, and like even 250 milligrams of test can be healthy, but I think everything else, there's definitely side effects as far as HDL cholesterol, red blood cell count, all that kind of stuff will be affected. So
I
don't know
agree completely.
But
I would agree with that completely. The only thing I would say in there is a lot of the damage that it can do, it can be apparent in just how you feel when you're on like the, larger amounts. But the thing is with these drugs, it seems to be, long periods of abstinence seems to almost reverse, a lot of the damage that they do. So that's something to keep in mind as well is, when I'm looking at it, sort of like I want to hit a certain number, it's going to take maybe, a little bit of extreme supplementation, and it might have to be followed by a period where, I have to abstain from using these things just to get my body back into, working order and healthy again.
Do you guys think that from my perspective personally, when you have the tested competitions, especially in powerlifting, just because there's not a lot of money in powerlifting, so they're testing probably the day of the event, and that's so easy to cheat that it's like meaningless. It's like completely meaningless. Do you think there's even a purpose to doing not like tested meets? Because unless if you're doing like, I don't even believe in what the UFC is doing. And the UFC supposedly is like, oh, we got USADA and they're freaking random testing people all the time and it costs millions of dollars. I still think there's guys taking stuff. I don't believe it. I just don't believe that they're all natural and not on stuff because of the money. You don't want to bust Conor McGregor. That would be the worst thing for your business. You don't want that guy to fail, or John Jones or whatever. What do you guys think about that? Because like to me, it's just like, I don't know. I don't even see the point of it. And I know guys too that are like, I've never done a cycle, and it's like, yeah, sure, bro. You know what I mean? Like where you're just like, I totally believe you, dude.
Well, I would say with the MMA athletes, especially as it's high level and there's, big money at play, I completely understand all of them trying to cheat the system 100%, because the person they're going to be fighting against is most likely cheating the system. So why would they want to be at a disadvantage when they're going against someone that's clearly probably, taking every little, performance enhancing step they can take? Now, as far as like a power lifter entering a tested meet when they could easily enter the open division just to cheat, that takes a different type of person that I feel is almost like, pretty shitty.
yeah, I don't think that many people are doing it, but sure, there's got to be a few. There's always going to be a few, and there's going to be a few at the top even, but I don't think the majority at the top are doing it. So I definitely think like USAPL, IPF is a good thing, and like I respect a lot of those people. And honestly, like I said, I wish I'd stayed natural longer, just because I would have had a better base. But it's all hindsight, you live and learn. So I don't know. I think in pro sports like the NFL, I think it's kind of a joke because I'm like, how could these guys not be taking stuff as far as they put their bodies through and like how they're built? Just like you said, Vernon Davis is a classic example. There's no way in hell Vernon Davis was natural, not a chance. So it's like, I don't know how they passed that off. So at a high level, I definitely think it's kind of a farce. But
yeah, I think it's just public perception. They just want the public to keep this, you know, this vision of what it is. Because a lot of people, I mean, I you know, my cousin's one of my best friends, and he's like full on. Nobody in the NFL takes steroids. They all get tested. I'm like, like, you're so stupid. Like, I can't even talk to you.
You know, if they take it, that's good. You know, it makes for better TV. Really, I mean, I don't have a problem with it. The pro athletes doing it.
No, I don't either. Yeah. I like the old Mark Coleman days in the UFC, you know? That was fun.
Paulo Costa. I don't know how he's natural, but
Yeah.
now is there anything you want to like wrap up with here, Scott?
Yeah, Chris. So Chris, I always like to ask people if they have faith in anything, if you believe in God, or if not, like what are your top values in your life? Like what are the most important values that you live by? But to get to, you know, me and Pete are both believers in God, so that's we like to hit on that.
I would say for myself, I am, you know, to be, you know, completely transparent. You know, there was a point in time in my life where I was planning to be a priest, but you know, I looked past that. I didn't become a priest. You know, for years I was, you know, I went to daily mass and was an altar boy. But at this point in time in my life and dealing with, you know, the people I deal with, I just choose to avoid the conversation, to be completely honest with you. And, you know, sort of the thing I had was a lot of the people's actions, you know, I'm speaking on, you know, particularly about prison. You know, there was these, you know, super religious people in prison that just wouldn't even act, you know, nice to other people. So it sort of put, you know, religious, you know, religion and everything like that in a bad context for me, because I see them trying to spread all this, you know, religious, you know, stuff, yet they don't even have the common sense to act decent to one another. So it doesn't even make sense to me. So I sort of just try to avoid the subject, to be completely honest with you. But, you know, obviously, you know, with my religious background, I'm a believer. But, you know, if we are believers, I think we should just start out by, you know, just being nice to each other and having common sense and decency towards each other before we, you know, go and start, you know, pushing our beliefs on one another. I don't know if that makes sense.
No, that makes perfect sense, because like that's one of the things I talk about with Scott all the time. I'm like, I want it to be known that I'm a believer, and I don't want to have to hide it anymore, because I used to feel kind of self-conscious about it because I didn't want to alienate people, you know, just like you said. I don't want to like push it on people and make them feel awkward and stuff. So I wasn't very vocal. But now I'm not like, I never try to push it on anyone, and I just try to make it known, like, yeah, that's what I believe in, and just kind of lead by example and try to be like good to people, hoping that, you know, that rubs off on them. So I'm kind of in the same boat where it's like, make it known and stuff, but I just don't try to like push it where people like, oh, you know, forget him because he's being annoying or whatever. So I think it's good to kind of lead by example, be a good person, and let everybody see that, and then it might, you know, it could bring them in. And if they see you talking about it, they're going to feel more confident themselves being open about it. So that's how I am.
I love that Pete's like that. And, you know, I always try to sprinkle a little gospel in on these things. And, you know, what came to my mind when you were talking is there's a verse that, you know, Jesus said about two sons, and one son told his father, he said, hey, father, you know, I'm going to do all this work in the field for you. I'm going to go plow the field and do all this work, you know, but then he didn't do it. And then the other son, he said, I'm not going to do it. You know, I don't want to do it. But then he went and did it. And so the verse, it was kind of like, who did the Father's work? You know, who did the work of God? It's kind of like you're saying, it's not who says it, it's who does it. You know, matters. It's who does the work. You could say whatever. And I always point to people, because a lot of people, when I talk to them about God, what they do is they'll point to religious people, and then they'll say, this is why I don't believe in religion. But then, you know, I always say, like, okay, but what does that have to do with Jesus, you know? Or, you know, because if you're a Christian, you're Christ-like, right? So that person actually isn't following Christ, because that isn't Christ-like. There is no connection. When somebody's not Christ-like, there's no connection to Christ through them. That's what people are judging religion on, is those people who are misrepresenting Christianity by claiming they're Christian. So what I always say to you know, all the listeners and stuff like that is, it's like, focus on Jesus, because if you do, you're not going to find a fault. You know, you can't say that about Jesus. You can't say, oh yeah, that guy's a freaking phony or something. It's like, no, he's the real deal, you know, and that's what people should look into, not Christians or religious people, you know. So yeah, I appreciate you sharing that though, man. I really do.
Yeah, I think that's an awesome, you know, story. You know, I think, you know, you see on Instagram and stuff, especially nowadays, is, you know, when a celebrity or someone with notoriety tries to do something nice for, you know, the poor or whatever, and they try to post about it, you know, I'm just thinking, you know, if they were really just trying to do something for these people, then they wouldn't be going out of their way to publicize these actions, you know. So it's the people that don't publicize their good deeds that I feel like those are the people that are really doing the you know, the good work.
Yeah, it's like you shouldn't have to advertise your good deeds or what you're doing. It should just be people see it in you through your actions. You shouldn't have to be like vocal about it. So I get that.
It's so true.
Yeah, 100%. I agree. I just want to throw this out there, just because there were some people in the comments. People have been loving these podcasts. Like, I haven't seen any negative feedback or anything. And someone was saying they wanted Dan Green to come on. And a really inspiring post that Dan Green made that I saw is he just posted one day out of nowhere. I never seen this guy like preaching, talking about nothing, but he put a post that said, "My secret is I pray every single day." And I was like, damn, that's really cool. Like, that's all he did, is he just put that post out there. He didn't really talk about it, but he shared that. And I was like, Dan Green's the man. Yeah, because that guy's not like a preachy type dude at all. He don't push it, you know. Dan Green, you're awesome, bro. We want you on the podcast. So,
Do you have any idea of who your next guest is going to be?
Oh yeah, I got it booked out for like months, man. It's like, you know, I get like Pete said, you were requested by a lot of people. Tons of people wanted you on here, and I was amazed because I try to listen to podcasts whenever we have somebody on, and you don't have anything out there. I was like blown away. I was like, wow, there's no Chris Hickson here.
Nobody can talk to him, and like he was the most requested. Because everybody remembers all the stuff he did. And, like, you know, like I said, he was one of the OGs. That's what I always say. Lily Bridges, Hickson, George Lehman, even Brent Willis, and those guys. Like, that was the OG crew of powerlifting that ushered in the internet era. So it's like,
I guarantee this is gonna blow up, dude, because the Greg Panora, you know, he was our most popular so far. We had 10,000 views in a week, and you know, it's kind of, I think you're kind of a similar personality. You're pretty calm though. I thought you know, I was like really ready. I was like, this is gonna be crazy, but you're very mellow. I'm really surprised. Like, you're a very calm guy. You know, you got your hair. You look very like very civilized.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like, obviously, you know, I dialing back, you know, what I could, you know, craziness, you know, what I want to portray. Obviously, I don't want to portray an image, you know, that shows me, you know, in too negative of a light, you know. And obviously, I have enough respect for both of you that I want to, you know, represent the podcast in a positive way as well.
yeah, appreciate it, man.
Yeah, but so to answer your question, though, I know all the people in the comments always want to know. Steve Gentili's going to be on the next one, so I'm looking forward to that one big time. Then I think we have Will Dinwiddie, I think, is the next one. Who he's a friend of mine, and he's some guy that nobody knows about. Nobody knows about this guy. Have you guys ever heard of somebody doing this? He squatted 225 for 100 in one set. He did one set, 225 for 100. I've never heard anybody doing that. You know what I mean? And like nobody knows who this guy is.
I've heard of that from one person. I believe, you know, back in the day when there was strongman was you know, popular on the internet and stuff, you know, back in my, you know, high school years. Jesse Marunde was one of the popular strongmen, and one of his training partners actually, I believe, on one of those like buffalo bars, or one of those bars that, you know, bends around your back, he squatted his body weight, which was like 220-ish, for I think 98.
Yes.
So,
that was the inspiration. So Will said that someone did that, and then Will was like, "I'll do 100. Like I could do it," and he did. It's on. You could look it up on YouTube. Nobody, like I said, nobody knows who this guy is, but he's freaking amazing. You know, he told me the story about it. He said by the end of it, he could feel the fat like being cooked off of his face. He was burning so many calories. It was like burning his face, and he's like, the fat was like sizzling on my face. I was like, dude, that's freaking ridiculous. He's awesome. He's coming on. Then we got Steve Johnson. Forsaken Warrior. He's coming on after that. And then, man, who else do we got? We got Justin Harris. He's like a freaking genius. That guy's like the most enlightening.
The nutrition guy, right?
Yep. Yeah. That guy's like crazy smart. And then I just got is it Gillespie? He's a guy from West Side. It was a guy, one of the West Side guys. He's gonna be on. I think Brian Gillespie. You guys know who that is?
Those West Side guys are always fun.
Those ones are great. And then I actually just today, I'm super pumped about this because we're going to get Pete to a 500-pound bench press. I just confirmed we got Josh Bryant coming on, bro.
Oh, damn. All right.
Yeah, I booked Josh Bryant. He's going to be in like mid-June. So I'm looking forward to that one. That's going to be great. Yeah, you got some good ones, bro. But thank you for coming on, man. This was great, and freaking, it's great catching up with you.
Sure.
Yeah, I really appreciate the opportunity, and it was great to talk to both of you. And, you know, it was great to see Pete after all these years. You know, I think it's actually been literal years since, you know, I've seen her talk to him.
Yeah, well, I used to see, you know, Chris every few months, or maybe every month even, when I was up there in Madison. And then obviously, like, you know, life changes, and I moved out to Kentucky and Tennessee, and I probably haven't seen him in 6-7 years. So it's good catching up because, you know, I always wondered how you were doing and everything. And like, I used to see your stuff all the time. We used to be in contact all the time. So glad to hear that you're doing well, dude.
Do you have a job? Do you have a job right now?
What are you, my probation officer? Come on. No, I'm just kidding.
Say, hey, man, are you in Chicago? Is that where you live?
I'm outside. I'm in the biggest suburb.
Somebody get this guy a job. That's what I was gonna say. Hook up our boy here.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've had a couple interviews, but obviously, you know, my last job, you know, I was actually in a program where I was actually able to work while in prison, and I ran a couple of UFC gyms, you know, while doing that. So that was my last gym job. But you know, while actually working that job, I got rearrested for under false accusations and had to go back to prison to finish my prison time in the building, you know, and that ended the sort of the work release program.
Dang, man, that sucks.
Yeah, so it's been a roller coaster, but I feel like it just makes me definitely stronger as an individual, you know.
Yeah, that's cool, man. That I'll have to hit you up then about that though, about like MMA training and strength training for that stuff. For sure. Bro.
Is it? I've been meaning to ask, you know. So is that beard natty?
The beard?
Yeah, is that natural beard or what we got going on?
That's all natty, bro. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Does it look not natty?
That's fairly impressive.
Thank you, man. Yeah, it's 100% natty. I've been like this, you know, I could do this when I was like 12.
I don't think your testosterone levels are too low.
No. Right on, guys. Well, Freaking thank you guys both for your time. I like it. You're in the gym, Pete. I like that, man. That looks freaking sharp, bro.
Yeah, dude, I got the washer and dryers right there, bro.
That looks good, man. It looks
That's
like
awesome.
a podcast.
That's awesome.
So, yeah, thank you guys for coming in, and I'll hit you up, Chris and Pete, not next Friday, the Friday after that. You got the NFL, so.
Yeah, NFL draft, baby.
Yeah, thanks for switching the date, Chris. We appreciate it.
Appreciate it, man.
Oh, no problem. And a happy late Easter to both of you.
You
Yes,
too,
sir.
man.
Man.
All right, guys. Peace.
All right. See you later.
See you.
Thanks again.
The underground sound in a city or a town of frown. The business of a crown of the living that abounds in the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts. The underground sound in a city or a town of frown. The business of a crown of the living that abounds in the church and the announcements. It's doing what counts. The underground sound is the voice within to give ear to the spirit and to flee from sin, to live for Jesus in the praise of him by not selling out for the praise of men, to do whatever it takes, no matter what the cost, to keep pushing up the weight, carrying the cross, straight bench pressing sin, defend the word that lacks, and your best mention him, or then you gon' die, cause the underground sound in a city or a town